Hello, my name is James Mulligan. I am a product manager within QuantumBlack. This is the final episode in our series dedicated to discussing the way we've approached the codification of our ways of working at QuantumBlack and how we've driven their adoption across our organization. To finish the series, we're going to revisit some of the milestones we've hit in the past few years that have leveled up our ability to drive continual improvement at scale, and then cover some of the key learnings from the previous 4 episodes, which hopefully might help other organizations setting out on a similar journey. There have been a number of critical milestones and unlocks in our learning journey to date. And since continual improvement is essentially a never-ending mission, I'm sure there'll be many more milestones that make these seem almost inconsequential, but for brevity, here are the 3 we think have mattered the most. Our first critical milestone was establishing an incentivized culture of learning, inspiring the organization and communities of practitioners to codify their best practices so they can be shared with other teams. For advanced analytics, this looks like answering common questions like how do I document an organization's data landscape, how do I prioritize which hypotheses to test, or how do I build data pipelines that can be deployed to a production environment, ensuring no one in the organization ever has to start completely from scratch. The second milestone was driving the adoption of these best practices across all the teams in the organization. For us, the key driver here was operationalizing those practices into technology that the teams choose to use because it solved tangible pain points for them. By using the technology, we can be confident teams are following best practices and mitigating common risks at scale. Third and finally, the most recent milestone was driving efficiency at scale. Consistent use of the technology means we can identify similar patterns across use cases and codify complex technical assets that were previously difficult to capture. By reusing these data models and hypothesis trees, data pipelines, and code, teams are accelerating the path to value for analytics use cases we've seen before. To finish up the series, here are some of the key learnings from our previous webinars. This list is by no means exhaustive, but will hopefully provide some inspiration for any organizations about to start their own continual improvement journey. Learning 1. Operationalizing best practice into technology requires investment and time. In the interim, the best way to drive adoption of best practices at scale is to ensure the practitioners own its creation. If the organization is establishing a center of excellence to drive its creation, ensure change champions are nominated within business units to provide input and drive its usage amongst their team. Ensure your process and technology capabilities are joined up. If that means your delivery teams regularly interfacing with IT, make that happen. The best way to scale adoption of best practices is by ensuring the technology used by your practitioners enables and reinforces it. Is your technology solving pain points reported by your practitioners? If not, why not? Knowledge codification is always secondary to people's primary objectives and day job. Find a way to incentivize contribution, either through rewards, recognition, or fame. Investing in a mechanism to publish those best practices will be wasted effort if the question of supply hasn't been solved in parallel. It's tempting to get seduced by the prospect of a complete methodology, but if the team optimizes for completionism, they'll sacrifice depth and quality for quantity. Focus on solving pain points that will have a bigger impact than a complete methodology. It will also avoid burnout amongst your best contributors. Many organizations ask whether they can simply lift and shift our protocols. Asking practitioners to adopt best practices they had no involvement in creating will result in rejection due to not invented here syndrome. Use external sources as inspiration and to bootstrap your own creation. If you've nailed the supply challenge, you could end up with hundreds if not thousands of contributions. They won't naturally join up on paper. Someone needs to govern the narrative that ties it all together. They'll define a tone of voice and ensure the best practices share a common language that will further drive adoption across the organization. Codifying a process will be fruitless if it's not being actively tested by teams. Test it and encourage feedback. Build mechanisms into your systems to make feedback easy. Build them into your technology to create an additional signal. Continual improvement is a never-ending journey. Codify best practices around modular activities or questions. The overarching narrative or framework can string each together, but the modular nature of the activities will make it easier for the teams to pick and choose what's relevant to their project and objectives. Advanced analytics is constantly evolving. Avoid codifying a process that's so prescriptive that it's abandoned the next time the landscape shifts. And finally, alignment across disciplines is a critical step before publishing and sharing. Analytics, after all, is a team sport, and although a department might own creation of its own best practices, the end result should clearly articulate how different roles collaborate to maximize the impact delivered. wherever you publish your protocols, ensure it's accessible to everyone in the organization. This includes staff not delivering advanced analytics as well. Create a clearly articulated path to publishing and encourage input from all. Some of QuantumBlack's most important best practices have been generated by teams that are not on the front line delivering analytics, such as our legal team and information security. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed the series. Thank you very much, and good luck.